Leonardo da Vinci was a weird dude, okay? There's a hair. Anyways, he wrote sentences and words backwards. He dissected corpses for fun, and even designed death machines on his spare time. Oh, and yeah, he casually invented the concept of an aircraft like 400 years before the Wright brothers invented the airplane. And it's not an airplane, but it is a bonus. He even sketched the world's first functional parachute. Alright, look, Da Vinci didn't invent the first airplane. The Wright brothers get that trophy. Sure, whatever. But Da Vinci did do something pretty wild, because in a bunch of his writings, stuff people didn't even see far after he died. He was basically the first guy to study bird flight, lift, drag, all that aerodynamic stuff, you know, stuff that people like me like to pretend to understand. But you gotta think, this was all in the 1400s, right? So, I mean, this is pretty crazy, dude. He went from being one of the most renowned artists to being mythologized as this Renaissance god, basically. I mean, hell, he was even cool in Assassin's Creed 2, am I right?
I think I figured out how to make a man fly.
Come on, I'll drive.
But I haven't even told you where I'm going.
Oh, and quick side quest, by the way. This is literally my first video on this channel, so if you're enjoying the video so far, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to hit YouTube's affiliate requirements before the end of the year, which is, approaching pretty quickly. I'll be posting a bunch more cool stuff about archaeology, mysteries, and history, you know, stuff like that. So if you're into that, please stay tuned. I'd appreciate it. But here's the wildest part, because some of his flying machines weren't just sketches. They were blueprints that were literally hundreds of years ahead of their time. A little off topic, but it gives credence to the idea of the snowball effect, which is essentially the idea of inventions increase the speed of future inventions, and it just keeps rapidly advancing that way. It kind of makes you wonder where everything's going and where everything's headed. But anyway, back on topic. So to be completely accurate here, Da Vinci actually designed 3 different aircraft that could, or at least in theory, work. First up, the ornithopter, which has wings very similar to bat wings. Then we got the aerial screw, which almost looks like one of those spinny hats, you know, that kids wear or whatever. And finally, we've got the delta wing glider, basically a Renaissance hang glider. This one is the closest Da Vinci ever got to a real working flying machine. What's pretty wild, and something I feel I should point out, is that all of these concepts are missing a very key ingredient. Could you guess what it might be? Really, guys, it's a vroom vroom, you know? It's an engine. I'm talking about an engine. Oh my god, bro. No, but seriously think about it. Every single one of Da Vinci's flying machines relied entirely on human power. The ornithopter apparently needed you to crank wooden levers to flap its giant wings. The aerial screw needed 4 people walking, or realistically sprinting, and that wouldn't even be enough to generate enough power to actually lift the thing. And the delta glider just needed you. And it needed weight to actually make it hover in air, or glide, I guess. You gotta think, man, they didn't even have the vocabulary for machines, motors, propellers, rotor blades, and Da Vinci sat in his mansion all day long cooking up inventions much similar to these. And here's the frustrating part. He kept most of his inventions and sketches and concepts a secret. You know, a lot of it didn't even come out until he passed, like I said earlier. Now imagine if he actually shared his ideas with other great inventors of his time. Good shit, good shit. But you know, even if he did take his ideas to other people, a lot of his ideas wouldn't make a lot of practical sense. So I feel like people wouldn't really know what to do with them. You know what I mean? I mean, for example, his flying machines. Nobody in the 1400s, or at least very few people, were thinking about that. You know what I'm saying? But Leonardo da Vinci was. That's what's really impressive about it all. Unfortunately, I do have to hold back the glaze, you know, just a little bit. Because while these aircrafts could work in theory, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Aside from the glider, the ornithopter and air screw just doesn't really work in reality. As for the ornithopter, we couldn't crank a wooden lever fast enough, let alone for extended periods of time, to get ourselves off the ground. And the air screw? I mean, that just explains itself. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure people back in those times were in much better shape than we are, but, I mean, for an American, you know, if there's no way an American would invent something that required physical exertion. There's no way. Not us fat-ass Americans, that ain't happening. But you know, it's actually pretty unfair to shit on all of his ideas, because Da Vinci was clearly a genius in multiple fields. A true free thinker, some might actually say. And look, I really want to say that the Wright brothers, you know, studied his work for inspiration, But that would just be a flat-out lie. It sounds really badass, but I'd just be lying. Most of his notebooks weren't even found until airplanes were already invented. But, luckily for us, modern engineers have actually tried turning some of his aircraft concepts into real functional flying machines, I guess you'd call them. And speaking of that, let's actually talk about the ornithopter. So, the way it worked was actually pretty straightforward. You would lie down on this little wooden platform and, you know, grab these levers, and that would somehow or another, once you pull the levers, that would somehow or another activate these wings, these gigantic wings, I should say, and make them flap. But humans just don't have enough strength to actually do that. Now, Da Vinci did, like, develop a pulley system to accommodate this, but it just still isn't enough. As far as we know, Da Vinci never did try and develop these ideas. Much like most of the ideas he had, he never did try and make them. He was a chronic procrastinator from my my research here, but I relate to that heavily, you know, minus the whole genius thing, you know what I'm saying? But if he had built it, it probably would have been made of pine, leather, and silk. Because, you know, that's kind of all they had back then. And that fact alone generates even more problems, because not only are you lifting yourself, you're also lifting the weight of all the materials you had to use. So if you're one of those people that are like, oh, I wish I was born in the Victorian era, I was born in the wrong era. First off, quit LARPing. And secondly, think of our boy Da Vinci, you know? I mean, obviously, if anybody was born in the wrong time period, it was Leonardo da Vinci. I don't care what anybody says, all right? Because modern replicas only work thanks to materials such as aluminum, fiberglass, carbon fiber, Kevlar, you know, extremely light materials, but they're also extremely strong. Da Vinci did not have access to any of that. Now, for the aerial screw, the idea was that if you spun this big linen screw fast enough, it would generate enough air pressure underneath, and it would lift the machine off the ground. Which is, you know, essentially how helicopters work, except 4 people aren't even close to being equivalent to an actual helicopter motor. Shocking, I know, but, you know. And even if they could spin it that fast, they couldn't keep it off the ground for, you know, more than like 4 seconds. I was gonna make another joke there, but let's just move on. You know, that said, it is kind of a cool, you know, medieval hamster wheel type idea. Completely impractical, but cool nonetheless. Now, if we could clone David Goggins, we might be able to finally get it off the ground.
Stay fucking hard!
As I alluded to before, the most impressive of Da Vinci's flying machines is, or at least the ones that actually work, is the Delta wing glider and the TP-style parachute. That's a interesting looking parachute. Yeah, that's weird looking, isn't it? These two are easily the simplest of all of his designs, but don't let that fool you. They're actually extremely effective. Adrian Nicholas, a professional British skydiver, actually built Da Vinci's parachute. And the catch was that he could only use the materials Da Vinci had access to. And it worked really well. Almost too well. In fact, everyone who tested it said pretty much the same thing. That it's actually smoother than modern parachutes. Which sounds really cool until you realize you're falling so slow that you're actually just drifting. Hanging out in the air like one of those stray balloons you see every now and then in the sky. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, anyway. But that was Da Vinci's whole goal, because he wasn't trying to make skydiving fun. That wasn't even a concept yet. He was just trying to design something that would stop people from dying if they fell off a tall, you know, mountain or building or something. And in his own words, a man would be able to throw himself down from a great height without suffering injury. So, yeah, he definitely cooked here. But what about his Delta wing? Unlike the other two craft, this one's actually very realistic. Modern engineers have built replicas of it as well, and guess what? It works surprisingly well. But I mean, I might be exaggerating a little bit here, because all of the reconstructions that I've been able to find, they're all using modern materials, but regardless, I mean, this is still hundreds of years ahead of its time, no doubt about it. It's basically the earliest ancestor of the modern hang glider, truly showing his aviation genius. And honestly, it proves Leonardo wasn't limited by his imagination, he was limited by the century he was born in, basically. If this dude were alive right now, we'd probably be living on Mars under Elon Musk's rule or something, you know? I mean, who knows? But anyway, if you enjoyed learning about Da Vinci's aviation genius as much as I did, consider subscribing. Also, if you notice like the camera shifting every now and then, it's because it keeps dying, and I just keep starting it over and over. I'm just trying to get through the video, and it's not cooperating here. But anyway, yeah, so I've got a lot of videos planned out here. I'm going to be going into mysteries. I got some history videos lined up here, some about mysteries, some about cryptids. I'm not sure about those yet. So if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe. And, yeah, I'll see you guys again later. Bye! I just recorded this entire thing, and it didn't even have, it wasn't even recording, so I mean, you know. Anyway, here we are. We're back.